can't say it 3 times fast or even 2 times in a row. But I don't have to because he has other cool names, including the Lord of the 9 Layers. Like, I would roll with that, man. The Lord of the 9 Layers. Like, man, that's at the top right there. That's real boss. That's real boss stuff, right? And this is a guy, like, you always hear about him because he stays prevalent in video games, right? He stays up in video games. Like, he's in a lot of myth stories. And look at the image, right? You can see it's cool. He's feathered. There's some depth there. You're kind of afraid of him, but yet he looks wise at the same time. And I'd say that's accurate to really who is. It's death, but it's far more administrative, right? This isn't the Grim Reaper. This isn't the guy who's chasing you down, laughing about it the entire way. He's not that. He's not the devil. He's not here to judge you. He's just like, this is a system, and I got to do my job, right? Like, look, this is my job. I'm hired to do it. I'm not calling in sick for you, right? So this is where most people go after death, and it's not because they're evil. This is not about sin, not in this world. It's just because you died normally. Like, that alone separates them in how the religions go, right? Because in this cosmology, there are different places that you go depending on how you die. And I don't know if I know another cosmology. Because if you drown, you go to, Tetlock, right? I believe the name is. If you died during childbirth, that's a completely different realm. If you were killed in battle, you got to go up to the sun, right? So there's a lot of these where I'm like, man, so how you die also matters, right? How you die also matters. So if you died an ordinary death, you're going to this domain. This is ordinary death domain. So it's not a fiery hell. It's this 9-layered, right? Obviously, underworld, right? So the souls, they just appear and they kind of move around for years. You pass through several trials. You're crossing a river with the help of dog. You face these mountains, right? It's some toughness here, man. Like, there's cutting winds. You have to pass through darkness and despair, right? Darkness and despair. This is not a punishment. I don't see how it's not a punishment, actually. Even as I said that, I'm like, how is this not a punishment? But they present it as a transition. Like, death is a process. This is like if death was the MVD, right? Department of Motor Vehicles. I've lived in a couple of states. I just remember being a kid and having to go to the Department of Motor Vehicles in California. And it sounds a lot like this. Like, this is kind of how I would equate it. Like, you have to go, it's a process. Man, it's a brutal process, man. Every step of the way, it's a brutal process, right? Like, and he rules this, and they say he's not a torturer, but he kind of watches you. He doesn't torture you personally, but he doesn't watch you go through this. And he's just like, hey, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is, right? He's not a savior, but it's his house. Like, he's like, look, I can't control the rules. I just wrote them down. That's kind of how he's moving about the system, right? And you see he's got this appearance. Like, he absolutely unforgettable appearance. Absolutely. He's got the skeletal check, right? He's always going to show his ribs, just like you're topless, you're shirtless. Like, yeah, I'm ribbed out, right? He's got the skull face, which is the classic skull face look. He's got the owl feathers, right? So you get the mysticism in. He's got the necklace of eyeballs. Sometimes he has a necklace of eyeballs, which I'm like, man, that's really top tier right there. That's really like top tier peacocking when you have, right, eyeballs around your neck, right? So he just shows you. He's got his jaws open. It's sometimes said to swallow stars. And this is the thing. This is not a frail depiction of death, right? He's a strong, virulent, powerful version of death, right? And they have a great story that he's a part of. He's linked to the story with Quetzalcoatl, who obviously is the feathered serpent, who's another huge figure in mythological terms. That guy's been around forever. That guy's like, man, if I had to, you're like a Tim Duncan, where you're one of the best ever. You're one of the best ever. You've got tons of championships. You've been in all kind of movies, all kind of video games, because that's what gods play, right? Gods play the game of who get talked about the most, because they have a ranking system, and the less, the more we talk about them, that their power grows. That's literally how the system works, right, Hathor? Right? And then they give you favors for talking about them. That's why I do this channel, right? So I can talk about the gods, and they'll be like, man, that guy has really been speaking my name. Let me give some favor on him for all of them, right? So Quetzalcoatl again is tied to this story. Like you always want to be linked to another story. And in this story, obviously, this is a big story for you. This is a big story for you. It's how Quetzalcoatl created us. Like, in that mythology, which is, man, you guys got to really get up on it. They got like all these multiple ages. Like the world has existed four other times. Four other times the world existed and it rose and it ended. And we're the fifth time, right? And we barely got here. We were like that family that like you already have four kids and then you're like, right? That was us. That was us. We were fifth kid. We're fifth kid. I don't know how many of you guys have, five of you guys in the family, but that fifth kid is always a whole lot younger than everybody else. And you're just like, man. And the oldest sister kind of ends up raising that kid because like the parents are already like, that's who we are. We're that kid, right? We're that kid. They actually created us from the bones of the previous civilization. So Quetzalcoatl, and here's the thing, like literally, when I tell you guys this story, man, the other gods did not want us to be. It was a debate. It was a debate. It was never a debate from the first age to the second age to the third age to the fourth age. It was not a debate that they were going to continue to make ages. This time it was a debate. And a lot of the gods were like, literally, this is the story. I'm not making this up. A lot of the gods were like, and basically, even when they told Quetzalcoatl he could do it, they're like, yeah, whatever. You go do it. You go do it. If you can do it, all right. We don't care otherwise. So Quetzalcoatl, man, really shoulders a lot for all of us who are alive right now in this age. This entire age owes this guy a debt, right? Because he goes down into the underworld, no lights, right? He just has to take his own self down there. And he's got to deal with, Mr. Bonyface here, right? Like, this is where it's at. And he's like, yeah, you want to get, he has a wife, by the way. She's down there. We'll talk about her in another segment, right? So he goes down to this underworld, and they say, like, you got to gather up these bones, right? He's gathering up the bones of the previous civilization. So we are infused with the previous civilization's bones, but we're also broke. Like, the bones were all chipped up and broken. I don't know if you guys realize this, but you guys are all made up of chipped up bones. That's your core, is a bunch of broken bones. Yeah, I know, it's shocking to me too, right? Yeah, we're all made up of bones of others, right? That's where we come from. The chipped up parts, by the way, not the good fully formed parts, right? He dropped the bones. See, you know your myth. He dropped the bones. They all got broken into tiny pieces. That's where we come from. Okay, and I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I'm like, all right, it's the reason why we have flaws. By the way, if you guys didn't realize why you have to forgive flaws in people, it's because that's who we are. But that's not the important part. The important part was that he did it for us. He's like, I'm going to go down here, right, to Mitlantakutli's realm and watch him laugh at me as I fall and stumble and do all the things that gods never do, right? All the stuff gods never do, he does it. He endures all that so that we can be born, right? So this is kind of what the backdrop. So this is kind of it's death, but it's out in any morality. Like, death is not morality. There's no courtroom here. There's no, eternal reward. There's no punishment. It's just more about inevitability, and you move through the system. So that tells you something about like like I said, it's not the Aztec culture that we know it. It's the Mesoamerican, I'll call it. And they divided it into forces. So we see his relationship to it. Okay. And here's the thing. They always kind of understood that life feeds on all these forces of life. The blood fed the sun, the heart sustained cosmic order, bones preserved continuity was also what this meant. And, Mitlantakutli stands at the end of that chain. All these things have meant something. So he is the keeper of like the final form, like the final, form of it. And he's not the cause of violence, but he is the destination. And again, he does have a wife, and she's known as the Lady of the Dead. Man, and some scholars trace the Dia de los Muertos tradition back to her cult. So she's worthy of a whole different breakdown stream of her own. So I'm gonna have to get to that at some point. Okay, hang on, let me get a drink here. So if, as we're defining kind of the other deities to make it make sense, right, to make the math, if Maat, as we see, is drought, and Hades, who we talked about, is a ruler, then Mictlantecuhtli I see as more of like the administrator. He makes sure it's all going to get done, right? He's the one where, like, can I talk to your manager? He's the one who doesn't take your call, right? When you want to talk to the manager and the manager never shows up, it's him, because he's the one at the top of it, and he's not trying. Whatever you said doesn't matter, right? I'm sorry, you're past your expiration date, man. That's what it is. So he understands. You just got to be cool with him, because he isn't really personally after you, right? So it's never personal, right? So then we come to the last one here, and this is Baron Samedi, right? Who's just like, man, the laughing guardian of death, right? We don't have to, first of all, like I said, this guy right here is death with style, right? And like I said, man, I think that's a blunt in his mouth, and it just looks like that to me. Maybe that says more about how I grew up. But you got a cane, you got, you're sewing some chest, you got chain on, okay, it could be worse, right? Like, I'm just saying, like, I'm mentally preparing myself for, like, it could be worse. If it's that dude, seriously, if it's that dude, I'm just gonna be like, you know what? All right. So this is who he is, and he comes